about a few stocks, SYMC. Let's look and see what these look like. So I'll grab these and throw them in right quick as we get started. Let me pull this.
You want to start recording here?
Yeah, I already am.
Oh, okay.
So SYMC, AMH, CINF.
I've been looking at CINF.
I have to remember to repeat your questions when you answer them, because I don't think that most of your external voices aren't heard. So if y'all ask questions, I'll just kind of repeat it as I go along here, so it'll be on the.
I listened to the broadcast. Mine was coming through, and Patrick came through, but Edward was not.
Oh, so it's just Edwards that didn't come through.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Edwards will come through with his new mic today. Yeah, probably so. Well, actually, I'm recording this also, so let me add these symbols. Let's look at SYMC. So SYMC is one that we have on as a trade. And this thing, and I'd have to go back and look at the trade, but I think that trade was on a weekly, if I remember right. Yeah, it is a weekly trade. And so it's broken down. And I forgot today, I didn't run. Actually, I should have tried to run these. So this is not going to include today, it looks like. Today it was down slightly, if I remember right.
Yeah, 0.49%.
Yeah. So if we look at it on a weekly, though, the weekly is coming back into this swing point. And so to me, the real test here is, what does it do with this guy? And so I don't remember exactly where the stop was. You might have it in front of you, Matt. But I think
it's 20.88.
Yeah, so it's somewhere down below, a break of this and a break of the swing point high. With the market selling off, I mean, this was kind of struggling up here at the highs. I think their earnings still are to come out. I don't believe they came out yet.
No, May 9th. They came out May 9th. Oh, that's tomorrow.
Yeah. I think they're about to come out.
Sorry, May 9th, tomorrow.
Yeah. So, this is really going to ride on what happens with the earnings. I would expect it to try and hold this. If it doesn't, then it turns out to be a bad trade. I don't know. When I took this trade, I was thinking that you had a shot to come back here. It could still trade within this range. So it could stop us out because it made this move up off of these bars, which is what I was looking at originally. So. It's just a question of what does it do? And did you have a particular thing you wanted to talk about, or?
Well, weekly, it's doing what it's supposed to do. First, it tested less than 6 bars, so you can expect it to come down to where it is now.
Yeah, to the bottom third, right?
Right, and so I guess my concern is because earnings have not been. I've been stolen those stats on our Skype deal that shows that. There's twice as many that are negative after earnings than there are positive. And I didn't know if, needed to move the stop up on it. Too late now, earnings are in the morning, I believe, but I don't know where I'd move it to. You've got it in the right spot.
Yeah, I think you just have to stick with it at this point.
Yeah.
And I have been looking at this along the way, and I didn't see a thing to do. If you were trading it on a different time frame, you probably would have done something different. But if you're trading it on the weekly time frame, there wasn't a lot to do here on the daily, on the breakdown. One could have traded it differently, right, on a different time frame, but that wasn't the trade. So you had these swing point highs here. The thing with a market that's strong is you try, once it's clear that it's strong, and about 4 or 5 weeks into it, we knew it was a strong market back in, was it February or so? at that point you just have to give the market the benefit of the doubt and give your stocks the benefit of the doubt with the market. Now, if you buy or trade things that have huge volatility, right? Things that are moving 15, 20, 30%, well, you might not be able to trade those on weeklies, but something that doesn't move that big, then you can trade them on the weekly time frame, and you're not going to get killed on them usually, right? You can have a 6 or 7% move and still be in the stock. But some of these other stocks, especially biotechs and stuff, right? They move, or like the pot stocks. Those things are moving 30%. You can't trade those on a weekly time frame. You're going to get killed if you stick around that long. You have to really try to time it. As I've always talked about, if you trade, well, every time you come down to a lower time frame, the slop is greater, right? Things are going to move around more. They're not going to, like for now, we've broken a swing point low here, just broke one there. That actually usually is the place that you get bounces back up and do the retest regens, right? And so no, I was only going to say is that if you're trading it on this time frame and you wanted to put stops, let's just say you wanted to bucket around this thing, well, you're going to get stopped out. That's okay. It does continue to move down if you're trading it on that time frame. It's just where you want to trade it. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, trading it weekly. That's really what sector support says, because XLK is extended at 88%, and so that it was extended before this week. So it makes sense that it's put on the weekly. SLK, it's not extended. I mean, it's obviously, it's got a long ways to go on the weekly. The XLK does.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I noticed. So that's why you can't change trade. You can't change time frames when you start these trades, because if you do, well, it just messes you up. So if you're on a weekly on this one, you're okay. It's going to make a break tomorrow on earnings.
Yeah, and the XLK today, did it happen to break the swing point low? 76.28 was the low. Looks like it was 76.55 yesterday.
The low today was 75. They closed at 76.46.
Yeah, so it's still over it. It's almost to break it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my interpretation of where that one is. I guess we'll find out first thing in the morning, huh?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. Okay.
Could be one of those 12%ers up or 12%ers down. You just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll move that much, but this sector, if you drill down one more level to hack, HACK, right? This sector itself has been on a tear, and I've noticed that a number of the stocks inside of it have done pretty well as well. So we'll see if it supports it or not. AMH, let's look at this one. Let's go back here, AMH. And so what is this? This is American Homes for Rent. Boy, this is something new. I haven't seen this one before. Okay, so I assume they're kind of like a Zillow or something. They have some sort of listings off the MLS or something probably. Let's see. So they had a day down on big volume on a daily. And the weekly had broken out, and the monthly has a test breakout as well. So you broke out on a monthly, a weekly, and at the same time on a daily. So that's a pretty strong breakout. Now that it's coming back, you got good volume off the top, 4.6. And that test over it actually had more volume on the daily. And the test into here, so I wouldn't be surprised if it actually breaks this one. Just the volume coming back into the swing point high. The more interesting test is going to be this one, right on the swing point high on the weekly. And that's probably what Edward is looking at, is this a buy coming into this area? So you have a nice volume spike here on the breakout. It's already tested once, so it's going to test again. The fact that it broke out on multiple time frames is also a positive.
Yeah, it's pretty much got 2 or 3 bars though.
Well, it is on this one, but it's not on the monthly.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a new time frame.
So it's the longest one, 2 to 3 bars. So you would expect this thing to probably try and hold. So I would certainly, you have the liberty of letting it test into it, especially now, right? Because you're coming back now, and the volume came in pretty good, and then when it got back into the swing point high, it tries to bounce a little bit, but the real test looks like it's going to be over here, and there you actually have good volume support on the breakout bar. So I would expect it to probably hold, and it's going to come in here at the end of the week. It looks like, Thursday, Friday, which will give you a good feel for what it looks like when it comes in. Volume's running at 6.3, so that's 20, 21 twice is 42 to come in about 10.5 probably, which is nowhere near the volume that it came out on. So yeah, my guess is that this is probably going to end up being a buy here. So I would look at it as it comes back into this area and see what it does. The good thing about something like this, you can trade it two ways. Again, you can trade with a tight stop underneath it, or you can give it a little bit more room and play it down farther. That percentage is not that bad, right? The swing point high is here. The lowest one is actually going to be this one, 22.13, which is just below here. So if it comes into the 23, you buy it. You're risking a point. It's not that huge a percentage, right? 0.5%. I mean, 5%. Yeah, I would probably, if I traded this thing, I'd probably look at it as it comes into the weekly. If it looks like it's going to trade and hold, I'd probably take it there. I'd use this as my stop out area just up underneath here. So somewhere around 21.75 or 80. It's kind of a nice looking stock.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're picking up MLS listings for rent though, huh? So this is, I guess this is because we've had a proliferation of rentals.
Yeah, they've been going up.
I mean, rentals are everywhere, right?
I continue to see articles about how much more, uh, well, renting is a good thing. I mean, there used to be home ownership was the American dream. Now you're starting to see all these studies that show, you know what, maybe not. Of course, that's a consequence of 2008, 2009. But you think with cheap money, people would be smoking on houses again, but the rental stuff's really busy. Anyway, I've been looking at this Cincinnati Financial, and I didn't buy it. Earnings were past earnings on it.
Well, when you get something that breaks out like this, you just have to look back for the overlap, like in this case right here. I mean, that's where your volume is going to be, right, on the breakout. And you just kind of hope it comes back into that area, because more than likely you're not going to get more than a third deep on this thing, although a third's pretty wide, right, somewhere down here. But you try to get something to fade back into that area that it broke out on, especially when you see, it's the same thing everywhere, right? It's breakouts everywhere. The swing point high here, let's see what the number is. That's 20, what is it, 80, 81.98 on the top. It's so far away, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I would just look for this overlap. There's not much else you can do. Watch it come into the overlap, because probably you'll set up. You've already had the bulk of the move, right? That was here. You're not.
If you're marking something like that up, and this is something that I've kind of struggled with recently with some of the stocks, is that some of these ABCDs, if you're using that as your target base, like for example, if there's no resistance on the charts left on any of the charts, the ABCD, some of them are just crazy after these earnings. So you just arbitrarily, I've just been arbitrarily picking a number.
Well, you can't realistically assume on this
Yeah,
time frame, right, that this thing's going to do this percentage again. I mean, that's just not realistic.
but even on the weekly, I've been seeing massive ABCDs because the run up since December.
Yeah,
And
although the weekly here is not as bad, right? This
that was
is,
not bad.
yeah, I mean, here you've got something that's
Yeah,
71 to 86 is
well, it looks
15,
like it's finished.
15 and 83 to is 98, right?
It's
So
finished.
it's almost done.
Yeah, that
Yes.
big bar just kind of knocks it out of the target, half the target.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know,
I don't think you can use these. I just take this and say, okay, I would want to buy the fade back into here somewhere, and I would just be targeting the top end of it again. And what you're really banking on with a trade like this, and you just have to run the numbers, but let's say you buy it at 94 even, and it's going to run up to maybe 96. You're going to make two on it. You just do the percentage and you say, what's the odds that it's going to drop underneath here? They're not very good that it's going to drop underneath there. So you're really just saying, okay, I can pick up 2%, you know, if I got extra money and I want to put it in something quote unquote safe, I just stick it in here, get my 2.5% or whatever I can get off of it and sell it at the top again. Yeah, because usually I always look at these things when they report earnings, they get a big move up. You're just banking that that's going to hold for 3 months, right? It's not going to change. 3 months later, this thing is still going to be towards the top of wherever it went. As it comes into the next earnings, expecting the next earnings to be good as well. It's just usually the way they trade, right? So you're just saying, okay, I can go a month and a half here. I'm probably going to get this thing to just wiggle its way higher, and I'm going to make 2% in a pretty safe way. That's these kind of trades if you make them. But is it worth it, right? Is it worth 2%? Do you want to trade something like that? Yeah, it's probably positive. Is 2.5% good enough for maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks? That's just something you have to decide.
well, I bypassed that one because with an extra move like that, I just couldn't see the risk.
Well,
Uh,
the thing is, again, is that you're banking on this thing not coming back into this bar deep.
yeah,
You're going to buy somewhere in the sweet spot here, and you're going to say, the odds of it coming down here are pretty low. And I know it can retrace farther, but the odds are just fairly low. And you could probably even go into a 30-minute chart and see what it did, right? I mean, this thing may have, on a 30-minute chart, you may have seen it, up here, then another one there, you know what I mean? And you might have some overlap in this area where you could literally say, okay, that's a good place for a stop. The granularity here on the daily on a move that moves whatever that is, $6 on that. It's not that big. It's 8%, right? But it looks big on this bar because this thing doesn't move that much very often. So safe trade, not a lot of kick.
on a 30-minute chart, I just pulled it up, and there's a huge bar back on April 25th with a low of 93.13. So that's that spot you're talking about right there. That's the 30 on the 30-minute chart.
Yeah,
That's a massive bar right there.
yeah, yeah. So
So
if you trade it, that's the way I would trade something like that. ExxonMobil. Okay, well, I saw all of these actually got hit on earnings. I'm assuming this is earnings somewhere in here because they report kind of late. So I'm guessing the earnings were like right there probably. Just looking at this chart. Let's see what they look like. So this guy has been pretty weak, right? And the whole, if you look at the sectors, energy's been the weakest sector, I think, year to date. So this tested the bottom on what looks to be almost the same volume. Reverses, gets a nice big bounce, and it looks like, and I'm on the monthly here, 80, 90. That's funny. So on the monthly, it comes up, does a retest regen, and is now trying to regenerate back down. So it's, flipped around and came back. So that's on the monthly. So that's negative. Over here, you actually get over it. So what it tells me, here's your retest regen over here, the first one. Actually, not the first one, but one of them. You got another one down here. The fact that it got over these tells me that more than likely what you're going to see is for some period of time, this thing is going to wallow around, right? And build out some sort of a range. Maybe it's between here and here. I don't know where it is. Maybe it's between there and there, but some sort of a range, right? Monthly says eventually going to try and come down deeper. This one says going to sideways for a while. And if you go to the daily's already kind of broken down decent. Yeah, so I don't know if the idea was to try and short something, but to me, I would be looking at a short, not a long in this thing if I were trying to trade it. I don't see a long trade here. Short trades in, short trades in. Go ahead.
I mean, it's a stock that I have clients that own it that don't want to sell it because they inherited it. So I track it. It's down 28% since 2014.
How much?
27%.
27% down
minus 27% since
2014. Yeah.
Yep. So we're it's going to be 5 years here pretty quick.
Yeah, that looks about right because 2014 would have been over 100.
Yeah, it got up to 105.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this just looks negative. I mean, I don't see a long trade in it. And if I were trying to short, it's hard to short this market, but if I were trying to short, I would just let it bounce back up into probably this 80 area, it looks like, if it bounced that far. And this, again, over here on the weekly, the suggestion is that this thing is going to build up some sort of a range in here. My guess is it would be from here back up to this top. And so this will probably be the range initially, and then eventually, potentially this breaks and it goes back down to test that high volume low down here.
Hey, Edward, could I ask you, where are you picking these stocks from? Like, what led you to these stocks that you have today?
Oh, Jeannie picked those two, the first two, using the Trading Cube scanner.
Okay.
Looking for low MTTFs.
For short? And on Exxon?
Oh, no, the first two were longs.
Oh, the first two were long. Okay.
Yeah, well, this Exxon, I was just looking at the magnet bar on the monthly, and I thought, there's a possibly potential range trade.
Yeah, and actually, I just noticed that when y'all started talking, right, is that this thing actually traded back to the top of the big breakdown bar. And that's where it rolled, right? Which many times happens to be about where the retest regens are. So so the potential range trade is here, right? And this thing is trying to roll back over. As you know, when you have a retest regen, right, you're not regenerating until you get underneath whatever this is, right? That's where the regeneration starts. So right now it's just rolling, but that's such a wide bar. It's, what is it, 4 or 5? I don't know. It's a good 10 points almost.
The reason we looked at Zom was because we couldn't understand why it had a hammer on the daily. Why are people putting money into this? That's what we couldn't understand. So we had to look at it.
Oh, this hammer's over here. Yeah, the hammer. Why would people put money into this? You got a hammer. Again, I think it's just a matter of, you have to look at all the time frames. I think it's a matter of retest regens that have broken on the way up, right? Which says that, this thing is going to probably trade out up here for a little while before it tries to work lower again. At least technically, that's why this would probably do that. And then there's a lot of
That's interesting. So the hammer indicated that it was possibly at the bottom of the range on the weekly.
Yeah, it looks like people, a lot of times, people are trading, the money that moves something like this, where you're trading 10, 20 million shares a day, right? These are not, small traders making this move. This is somebody allocating into, I mean, look at where it traded to. Look at this here. Right to the top of what you would think would be support, right? I mean, that's what we show as support. So you come in there, it's a low risk entry. If you're moving a lot of money around, it's a place to reallocate into it. You sold some at resistance probably, or if you're trading it, right? These institutions, so they sold around their core position up here somewhere, and they're going to buy back down there. I mean, again, it comes back to what you were saying earlier when you're looking at, maybe this is a range. Well, that they're playing half that range right now.
It's 8%.
Yeah, it's still a big range, right?
Yeah.
It's something you can trade. And this is not the kind of thing that's going to move 20% against you. Maybe if it goes down 2% or something, you just get back out a small profit. But, if I'm going to move 10 or $15 million into something, I kind of want something big that's liquid that I can move my money around pretty easy and don't have a lot of slop. A lot of people trade these kind of things. Well, a lot of people with money trade these kind of things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a large cap. It's Exxon.
Yeah.
That's what my clients keep telling me.
And you also have, and you also have the situation where the general market supports it, right? Even when it goes down, the general market's going to try to pull it back up. So, you're trying.
My thing was that it's over 5 years, it's just such a dog in a bull market, and it's just been terrible.
A dog in a bull market. Yeah, there's sometimes dogs in bull markets, but when they got this kind of market cap, they get to hang around. It's also energy. People love to play energy, right? Energy can move, if it gets going. So, my personal opinion of ExxonMobil, it's in what I think is over the next 10, 15 years is in a dying sector. I mean, they're going to have to go buy something else. They're going to have to take all their money and go buy into something else because the energy space is moving. It's slow, but it's moving. It's not going to be just what they've done in the past, right?
Yeah.
So, and if ExxonMobil is still going to be around, they're going to have to move with that space as it moves to other forms of energy, particularly renewable energy of some sort. Okay, that was all of those guys.